Hey, so let me start this session with a question. In putting together your puzzle called life, are there ever times where you're convinced you're missing some of the pieces? I mean, think about that question. Relevant question, right? In putting together your puzzle called life, are there times when you're convinced you're missing some of the pieces? I mean, join the club. We all do. Hello, my name is Mark Mascola, and in this session of More Powerful Me Motivation Monday, I'm going to share with you 5 simple steps that you can begin implementing today to be and to become the best and most powerful version of you, personally, professionally, and most of all, spiritually. Title of today's session is 5 Simple Steps to Master Your Best Life in 2025. Now, before we dive in, I want to invite you to get your hands on a free guide to becoming your best self by discovering your core strengths. You know, the definition of the word core is the central and most important part of something. You see, there are 8 key areas we all must master to live our best life. A life defined by passion, a life defined by purpose, a life where you use your God-given talents to not just survive, but to thrive in every area of your personal, professional, and spiritual life. You see, mastering life begins with mastering self. Mastering self begins with discovering and implementing your God-given talents. The central and most important are your strengths, not what you're good at, what you're called to be great at. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description to a free guide to mastering self. We call this the Core Strengths Challenge. Again, all you've got to do, it's a freebie. Just click the link in the description, and you'll be taken right to some information that I can promise you. If you're looking to master yourself, master your best life in 2025, becoming the best, most powerful version of yourself means understanding your core strengths. So click the link in the description. Let's get on to today's session. Step number 1 of the 5 steps to mastering your best life in 2025. Step number 1, I mean, it's the pretty simple one, right? Have a vision of what it is. What is my what? What am I looking to create? You see, when we look at our lives, I mentioned the 8 key areas we all must master: personal growth, relationships, finances, physical wellness, mental clarity, nutrition, and recreation, and life's purpose. We have a standard of acceptance in each of those 8 key areas. Now, sometimes the easiest way to discover what it is we want our life to look like is to play this little thing that I call the game of opposites, right? Make a list of 5 things that you'll no longer settle for in your life. And you can base them around those 8 key areas, right? Look at your finances, or look at your relationships. Look at your physical health. What are 5 things that I'm settling for in this area that I'm no longer willing to settle for? The easy way to do it is to grab a piece of paper and just write out what they are, and then draw a line down the middle of the piece of paper and write down what their exact opposite is. You know, a lot of times we can't have a clear vision of what it is because our lives are so clouded by this incessant thought of what it's not. Right? What am I sick of in my life? Well, we've got to have a vision of our ideal what. What does our ideal life look like in our health, in our finances, in our relationships? And what's really cool about it is when you get down and do an exercise like this, one of the things that we do in the More Powerful Me program is talk about not only what does my life look like, what is my what, but what does it feel like when I take an inventory of where I am. What does it feel like to be where I am, not living from my best self and not creating the results in my life that I want, and then have a vision of what it is, but explain in detail what it feels like when you accomplish those things. So again, step number 1 is just have a vision, have a clear vision of the what, and you'll never see exactly what it is. When I talk about, the puzzle called life, let me tell you, one of the reasons so many people feel like they're missing so many of the pieces is they don't realize that the top of the box of your puzzle called life should be one of your own crafting. If you feel like you're a prisoner in your life because you're helping somebody else build the puzzle of their life, you have to begin immediately having a vision for what your ideal life looks like. That's what I'm talking about when I have a vision, to have a vision of the what. And then step number 2 is to create an action plan. There's so many people in this world that have a vision of what they want. There's the first group, right, that has no vision. They're so stuck in their current circumstances that they're a victim of the life that they're living that they can't raise their vision up out of this life of chaos. The second group of people struggle with creating an action plan. They see what they want, but they can't figure out how to get to it. I know you're just like the rest of us. You don't have any more time, right? You're stressed to the max. Every waking hour is already taken doing something else. But let me let you in on a little secret here. Your standard of acceptance, remember I talked about this just a second ago. Your standard of acceptance is based on what you are currently trading your time for. What are you willing to trade your time for? Because let me tell you something. We've got 24 hours, and your time, just like mine, is already allocated. Discernment, the word discernment, the strength of discernment means knowing what to do, right? We know the difference between right and wrong. We know a lot of times what we want to create. Discipline means doing it. And so few people will sit around and complain about results they're not getting for actions they're not taking. Suffering in our lives, the true painful place in our lives, comes from knowing and not doing. So, step number 1, have a vision of the what. Step number 2 is to create an action plan, right? Don't sit around and complain about results you're not getting for actions you're not taking. Be willing to do the work, because true discipline means that I'm willing to look at my current circumstances and say all my time's allocated, but what am I willing to trade for a new action to create a new result? Because, I talk about it all the time. The term, the circle of insanity means that I'm just convinced that I keep doing the same thing over and over and over, even though I know it's not working, right? We can be caught in that trap for weeks, months, and possibly years, trying to convince ourselves that the answer is to keep doing what we know isn't working. The game is to create an action plan. When you have a vision of what it is, create an action plan, and then be willing to trade some of your most precious time for it. If you want to make more money, you're going to have to trade some of what you're doing for the results. If you want to create a healthy, fit body, you're going to have to trade sitting on the couch for doing some exercise, right? I mean, there's a trade-off here. And there's pain in not knowing, but there's more pain, again, in suffering in not doing. So what is step number 3? Step number 3 of the 5 steps is to be flexible, right? You got to have a plan, but success in anything, whether it's finances, whether it's relationships, whether it's our physical health, success in anything is never a straight line from where we are to where we want to be. The analogy I use all the time. I mean, I'm doing this session from our farm here in West Tennessee. I know how to get to my house in Nashville, right? If I'm driving there by night, it's not a straight line. I can only see 200 feet at a time, so I know where I'm going. I know what my what is. I know what my destination is. I get in my truck and I take off driving, but there's course adjustments, right? It's never a straight line from here to there. My headlights can only see 200 feet. Creating the life that you want to create means, number 1, having a vision for what it is. Number 2, creating an action plan. But number 3, be flexible in the plan. The thing to do here, have a plan, understand it's never a straight line, and then constantly evaluate the plan. If you're trying to make more money, if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a new business, you've got an exercise routine that you're going to. Evaluate your plan. Inventory what's working and do more of it. And inventory what's not and either adjust it or quit doing it altogether. Ask yourself, and this is back, I'm going to talk about the link in the description again. What strengths do I use? Right? What's working? What strengths do I need to develop? What's not working? So again, in the description, I'm going to give a link, put a link in there to a free guide where you can discover your core strengths, your outer core strengths, your neutral strengths, and your lesser strengths. I'm telling you, I discovered this over 2 decades ago, and it has changed the course of my life and the lives of hundreds of other people that I've shared it with. So it's a freebie. Just go to the link in the description and click on it. So number 4. Be committed. What does the word commitment mean? A lot of times we want to sit around and wait on God. God's waiting for us to be committed. Being committed means that I'm willing to play the long game. I'm willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's difficult, because to be committed means that you're going to persist. That whatever your what is, whatever the vision that you have for your ideal life, your ideal relationship, your ideal financial situation, your ideal healthy and fit body, whatever that is, if it's worth having a vision for it, it's worth putting together an action plan and sticking to the plan. Again, you got to make course adjustments, but you got to be committed to the plan. You got to persist. Don't quit. Be resilient. Adversity, I say it all the time. The best and most powerful version of me is always found right on the other side of adversity. Be willing to do what most won't, to have what most don't. Play the long game. Results come past the point where others quit. Remember, the word miracle, right? Don't quit before the miracle happens, but realize that the miracle is a process and is always in action. So step number 1, have a vision. Step number 2, create an action plan. Step number 3, get to a place where you are flexible in the plan. Be willing to make course adjustments. Pivot when necessary. Step number 4 is be committed. And here's the biggie. This is the core. When I talk about the More Powerful Me program, we actually I talk about these 5 steps as 5 pillars that every person should build their life on. And step number 5 is the central pillar. It's the core pillar. It is the central concept behind all of this. That concept is to pray about it, right? Number 8 of the 8 key areas that every person must master is spiritual connection and life's purpose. Starts with personal growth, which is number 1, comes full circle to spiritual connection and life's purpose. You have to put your prayer life at the center of everything you do. And saying prayers like, not, God, take this away from me. God, give this to me. God, do this for me. How about a prayer that says, God, I am willing to use and develop my strengths to become the person to have the thing. Because the process of having is always the process of becoming. I used the word just a minute ago when I talked in step number 4, the word commitment. We all must live our lives by 5 commitments. Those 5 commitments are be willing to do more, to become more, to have more, to serve more. Again, the game is about self-mastery. That's what we do here at More Powerful Me. Discover and use your God-given core talents. Discover those talents and use them. Discover your God-given lesser talents, because truly, I was talking to this about Ashley this morning talking to Ashley about this morning in our prayer life. That we get caught up in this concept of strengths and weaknesses. We really have no weaknesses. What we have are underdeveloped strengths. Think about that. So, the game of self-mastery, discover and use your God-given core strengths. Discover your God-given lesser strengths and then develop them. Because when you look at step number 1 of this is having a vision of what your what is it's not all going to be based on what your core strengths are. There are strengths that you're going to have to develop to live your best life in 2025. So again, having the result is always, having is the result of becoming. Again, becoming the best and most powerful version of yourself. That is the end of this session. More Powerful Me, Motivation Monday. Till next time, I want you to affirm just like I do. I'm a more powerful me. We are more powerful us because of our most powerful God. Again, get the free guide in the description. Have a great day wherever you are in the world. You absolutely deserve it. Bye for now.